separation in the West is ridiculously challenging. After a 7-game winning streak, the Mavericks, they've lost 3 of their last 4 games during a tough East Coast swing. They now host the 76ers today. That's the first game we have here. The Celtics, they headline the second, but it's the Warriors that are looking to gain some ground in the West standings. Golden State has won 13 of their last 16 games with some signature wins in that bunch, Perk. I know that's important to you.
Yeah.
And we finished the day in Phoenix with the Suns. They look to stay out of the play-in, hosting a Thunder squad that is looking to secure the first place seeding heading into April. So let's take a look. Here are the standings. And let's focus in on 5 through 11, where, how would you say it, Stephen A? Things are a little bit, there's fluid. Things are fluid. The Pelicans, they start the day at the 5th spot, but they could slide to 6th with a Suns win tonight. From there, the next pack of teams are sort of jockeying for that play-in positioning, including the Warriors and the Lakers. But the Celtics and the Warriors, they've actually, record-wise, been the best teams in the NBA since February 1st. The Celtics are the measuring stick. We talk about them as the class of the NBA. But are the Warriors more dangerous? Are they better, Bob, than their record indicates in the chances they have against those top teams?
Yeah, they are. I mean, they still have a top 5, whatever you want to call Curry in the league, player.
Yep.
And they're playing the best they've played all season long. They're healthy. Wiggins is now out, so he's got to get back. I know he's dealing with some personal stuff, and they're going to need him to make a stretch run because that wing defender, and we saw what he did in 22 in the playoffs. But this is the thing about the West, Malika. Let's say the Warriors get up to the 6th seed, which I think is the goal for all these teams, is to get out of that play-in, that 7 through 10 dangerous 1-game, 2-game situation. But then you're playing Denver, who's the 3 seed right now. So I'm looking, if you're in the West, there's no easy way around it. I mean, it's all matchup dependent because there's certain teams the Warriors, I think, specifically would want to avoid. And then there's certain teams that they match up better against. So I think they're dangerous. I don't think anybody doesn't think they're dangerous. Now, if you're talking about Boston, I do think in the NBA right now, there's 2 teams that have separated themselves a little bit. And Denver, you're going to respect them because they're the defending champs. We saw them last night. And the Celtics. Those 2 teams, I think, are in a little bit of a different tier. Mm-hmm. If you look at the West, I don't know that any of us can say with confidence the Warriors cannot beat the Minnesota Timberwolves or Oklahoma City Thunder or Clippers. I don't think anybody can say that.
Well, for me, when I look at the Golden State Warriors, I've been telling everybody they're dangerous. When you can make shots, that's where it starts. Steph Curry is the greatest shooter God has ever created. It's just that simple. And when you look at it from that perspective, and then you take into account somebody like Jonathan Kuminga, who basically has been since January 12th, averaging 20.6 points, second to Steph on the team, shooting 5 more shots a game than he was prior to that. Record is 15-7 with him doing that, shooting 56% from the field. You can't ignore that, okay? Pajimski, you can't ignore. Draymond, how their defense is elevated, can't ignore. Klay Thompson back in the starting lineup against Toronto the other night after about 5 or 6 games coming off the bench. By the way, he was playing better coming off the bench than he was as a starter. But the only thing I look at Golden State and the only reasons to summarily dismiss them as far as I'm concerned is because of a lack of size. If it were not for that, I would be looking at the Golden State Warriors and saying, y'all, they could possibly be in the finals again. Because that's how I feel about them and their ability to make shots.
It's not one other team in the league that has been through more adversity than the Golden State Warriors. Not one. As far as the Draymond Green suspension, CP3 being injured, Klay Thompson up and down, him moving to the bench, the mixture of bringing in Jonathan Kuminga, into the starting lineup. And again, they're 5 games above 500. But that's a testament to how great Steph Curry is. He is one of the greatest professionals that the NBA has ever seen. A guy that holds himself accountable. Yeah. He never shies away from the media. He never lashes out at anyone, never blames anyone. He always calls a spade to spade about which direction the team is going in and how they're playing. When I think about the greatness of Steph Curry, and yes, Stephen A., you may have, I have, questioned his leadership, right, and elevating his leadership, because we know Draymond Green, in my opinion, is the heart and soul of that team, as the vocal leader. But Steph Curry has been amazing throughout this whole journey in dealing with the nicks and bruises that the Golden State Warriors has dealt with.
I want to piggyback off of what he said, just as an aside. I never questioned Steph Curry's leadership. That's what ticked me off about Steve Kerr.
What are you looking at me for? What are you looking at me for?
Because that's your former coach. The point is, I never did that. I was ticked off at Steve Kerr for implying such a thing. What I was saying was LeBron James has religiously been held to a standard. With what happened with Draymond and what have you, we would have been asking to hear from LeBron. Why weren't we asking to hear from Steph Curry? That was all I was trying to say.
Yeah, and I would say, look, I hear that, and I hear that, and that I agree. I thought you've always been a little hard on Curry. Have you?
I mean, they got to get held accountable.
Okay,
too.
all right, that's fine. He is what you said he is. And I do think Stephen A., he does get held accountable. I think, one time, we had lost a playoff game while I was there. And when you lose a playoff game, the whole world thinks your season's over, and then you win, you're winning the title. So there's these big swings of emotion. And I said to Steph, do you ever lose your confidence? He said, no. I said, no, I don't. That's who I am. That's who I have to be.
Right.
So he's faced the music before, and he's delivered. But this season, you even skipped over, and I guess we should say it, a death of a coach. Talking about adversity.
Right.
I mean, you're talking about just the on-the-court stuff. You're talking about off the court, a huge thing. And Curry, the most steady person and player that I've ever been around. Yeah. And like you said, one of the best leaders. And so Draymond does what he does. But the point is they're going into Boston today, and it's a big test for this team. And it's a measuring stick. There is no greater measuring stick than at Boston.
Right. Where they're
going into Boston.
At home.
That is it. You're going to find out who you are. Now, I wish they were fully healthy with Wiggins. They're not. But it's going to be a good test for the Warriors.
But this whole stretch has underscored just how important Draymond Green is for this team.